That right there was everything that we watch the Premier League for. That is a great game to watch as a neutral and one I really, really enjoyed. Back and forth from minute 1 to minute 90, both sides looking to win the game, both sides making changes in an attempt to win the game. Intensity, duels, goals, off the line clearances. Oh, that right there, that's Premier League football in my opinion. That game right there just defined the English game. And I think that last minute winner from Buendia is deserved for Aston Villa. Look, Arsenal in the second half did throw a roll of the dice out there. They did bring on Gyokeres. They did bring on Trossard. And we're going to talk about those substitutions because I actually think they did improve the team. And they got their equalizer and threatened to go for another one. But Aston Villa deserves so much credit today. And Unai Emery in particular continues to upset the masses. He continues to go against the established order and push Aston Villa in conversations that many of us did not see happening this season. I got to hold my hands up today, guys. I do. I mean, not even just today, but over the last 6 weeks or so, I got to hold my hands up. At the start of the season, I was asked, Lyes, what's your hot take for this Premier League season? And I said, I think Aston Villa will struggle this year, and I believe Unai Emery will leave the job at the end of the season, whether from his own admission or from the club deciding to move on. Now, Aston Villa fans did not like that take whatsoever. They were very quick to remind me that Unai Emery is the most powerful figure at the football club. He practically runs it, and that Villa would never sack him. But I said, he might even decide to leave, because when I looked at Villa at the start of the year and their disappointing failure to qualify for the Champions League on the end of last season, with how heartbreaking and dramatic that was, and then going into the summer where due to PSR restrictions, they were unable, in my opinion, to really strengthen the team. I'm sure Emery would have wanted to. And then adding to the fact that they had lost Duran in January and they were unable to retain Rashford and Asensio, two players that were huge for them in the run-in last season, I thought to myself, Villa feel like they're kind of going stale. And if I'm Emery, I'm almost asking myself, how much further can I take this team? Right? I've brought them to the Champions League. I've brought them to Cup semifinals. I've beat big sides. I've had Villa fans dreaming. I took them from relegation positions to now the top 4. What more can I do? As a manager, how much more can I be inspired? I got it wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, I got it so wrong. Now, after 5 or 6 games, my prediction didn't look too bad actually, because Villa started the season poor. They were, I think, winless in their first 5. They hadn't scored a goal, I think, in their first 4 or 5. And I'm sitting here thinking, hey, I might be a genius. I got it wrong. Unai Emery has completely transformed this football club. And they now sit 3 points behind Arsenal, the side that they've beaten today. Second in the league, momentarily, until City play. And maybe most impressively of all, that's a 5-game winning run for them now. Aston Villa have won their last 5 games in a row. I mean, hey, my man with the hair, United Strand, you chose the wrong team to support, brother. That would have been gone. You would have had a clean skin fade at the moment if you supported Villa, bro. 5 wins in a row. And it gets even better when you look at the stats overall. They've lost 1 game in the last 10. They have won 9 of their last 10 games in the Premier League. Their only loss coming to Liverpool at Anfield. Emery is doing a fantastic job, and he has shut up doubters like me completely, emphatically. Today is the best result of the lot, in my opinion. And this is a run where they've beat Spurs, they've beat City, and they've now beat Arsenal Football Club. They sit second in the league. It's incredible. And today, honestly, what a terrific performance from them. Arsenal are not an easy team. We know that. In my opinion, they are the best team in the league, right? The league says it. The performances say it. The stats say it. They are the best team in English football this season. But Aston Villa in that first half, they look like the team that are top of the league. They look like the team that are absolutely flying. They look like the team that are the bookies' favorites to lift the trophy at the end of the season. And if it wasn't for some really poor finishing from Ollie Watkins in that first half, hey man, David Raya, throughout this game, but in particular that first half, kept Arsenal in this game. And yes, there was that one instance where Eze tapped the ball into an open net. That was maybe a bit of a fright. Saka went through once as well too, but I think Aston Villa were the side that looked more likely to score. And lo and behold, they got that opening goal. The opening goal came from Matty Cash, who I think actually scored against City earlier this season as well too. So really getting a knack of scoring goals. And look, it's a terrific pass to the back post, but I think you got to look at Eze and Calafiori in that situation, right? Calafiori, I think, steps forward too much, leaves a massive gap in behind him, but for focusing on Eze's got to track his man and actually be more aware of the back post a whole lot better in that situation. Matty Cash drifts into the back completely unmarked and then slots it in between Raya's legs. A terrific finish and a fully deserved lead. Now, let's talk about Eze a little bit because he was hooked at halftime. And I think in the first half, he just did not offer enough. Now, I'm a fan of Eze, and I think he's had brilliant moments this season for Arsenal. Most notably, the hat-trick in the North London derby. I think he played pretty well against Bayern. He's had flashes. He's had moments that really signify what a top player he is. But I think when Arsenal purchased Eze this summer for the money that they did, I think the expectation was that he was almost the final piece of the puzzle. He was the creative genius of this team that they maybe were missing previously. He was the maverick. He was the match winner. I'm not going to lie. For the amount of money they spent on Eze, I don't think he's justified it yet. Now, that can very well change, but I think if you look at his tenure at Arsenal so far, it's a lot of flashes, but also a lot of moments where you're thinking, is he actually even in Arsenal's best team when everyone's fit the way he's currently playing? I think that's a debate. Odegaard is back in the team. He's been playing in that 10 position, and I don't think has really stamped his authority on it yet. Therefore, that's why Odegaard is back, along with being the captain. But then you look on the left-hand side where he played today, and I'm sorry, the way Trossard is continuing to impact games, both starting and coming off the bench, I find it difficult to justify Eze starting for Arsenal right now. And look, you can't win a league with 11 players. You need depth. I get it. So if he goes to the bench, it's not the end of the world. But I'm not going to lie, guys. I was expecting a whole lot more. And when he was hooked at halftime today for Leandro Trossard, who scored the goal after 5 minutes, that wasn't a surprise to me whatsoever. Now, the first half, Arsenal had one player, in my opinion, that was really driving this team forward, and that was Bukayo Saka. And actually, I think the entire game, I think Saka was Arsenal's most dangerous player. Up against Ian Maatsen today, who's a great player, but not maybe the best one-on-one defender. I thought Saka had a field day against him today. Honestly, physically manipulating him left, right, getting anything he really wanted from Maatsen in that 1v1 battle. And honestly, maybe could have left with an assist if Odegaard plays that a second earlier. And I think just looked like the most threatening player on the pitch for them. Now, he ends up going off due to a yellow card. But first of all, that yellow card was suspect. And secondly, I think Arsenal looked a whole lot less threatening once Saka came off. Madueke came on, and I don't think had the same impact. But bar Saka, Arsenal were really struggling, in my opinion, to progress up the pitch. Like, they were getting it to Aston Villa's half, but never really getting it anywhere close to Aston Villa's box in terms of threatening, right? If it wasn't Saka carrying the ball forward, I thought they were a little toothless in that regard. And a big reason for that, I think, was Merino, who has a fantastic record as of late, scoring goals for Arsenal. But oftentimes when you watch this game, he was sitting next to Odegaard in like the number 10 position. So you had Saka looking up and no one's in the box. Or you have Saka and you look up and he's the furthest forward player. Didn't really have a target or a player that could stretch Villa's defense to really create him a little bit more space and give him a target to work with. So I actually really liked Arteta's substitutions at halftime, and I have to give Arteta credit for doing them as quickly as he did. Many managers will wait till the 60th, 70th minute to change a problem that is staring them in the face after 20. Arteta is not that kind of manager, and we've seen numerous times this year his substitutions come in and immediately change the game. We watched it against Bayern in midweek. We've seen it numerous times with Martinelli changing a game, and today I think Gyokeres and Trossard, it was so obvious they were needed, and within minutes, they made the difference. I'm not the biggest fan of Gyokeres, but one thing I can definitely admit is that he is the only player in this Arsenal setup at the moment that actually provides an option in behind and really keeps defenders honest. I think when you have someone like Merino, great player, great goal scorer right now, but also I think he allows Villa players to maybe cheat a little more, step a little further forward, press a little higher. With Gyokeres, you always have that worry in behind, that one pass down the line or one pass over the top, and he's there. So therefore, I think he really stretched Villa's defense a whole lot more and allowed Arsenal more space to kind of play football, along with Trossard, who at the moment, I mean, every single time this guy is playing, he's coming up with the goods, he's coming up with clutch moments. They came in, and 5 minutes later, Saka plays a ball across the box. A Villa player just gets a deflection to stop it from falling to Gyokeres, but Trossard is on hand to grab the goal and make it 1-1. And from that moment, Arsenal really looked like themselves for the next maybe 15 or so minutes of the second half. They were the team in command. They were the team dictating how the game went. And it looked like, this is going to be the same old Arsenal that we've seen this season. Face a bit of adversity at some point, but they'll get back into the game. And on the other hand, with Aston Villa, there was always that threat in behind with Ollie Watkins. But Ollie Watkins, I don't think has really looked like the Ollie Watkins of old this season. I know he grabbed 2 goals against Brighton this week in midweek, but if you look at his season thus far, I think he had 1 goal in his first 19 appearances in all competitions. And Ollie Watkins is always going to be a handful in terms of he's going to run tirelessly. He's incredibly unselfish. He's going to be a battering ram. He's going to hold up the ball as well as he can. But today, I think, honestly struggled. And worse than all of that, the final touch on so many occasions just let him down. He had a huge opportunity in the first half. He had a huge opportunity in the second half. And those are moments where you expect Watkins on form to bury. He's got a fantastic record against Arsenal, but today just was not up to the races. In turn, Emery brings on Malin. And I didn't think Malin played a great game either. I think he had one real chance as well too, where the ball falls to him and he takes it first time and it just flashes past Raya's far post. But overall, I think this is the position where if you look for Aston Villa this season, they have terrific players all across the pitch. But the one position I think they really need to strengthen is up front. They had Duran for the first half of the season last year before he went to Saudi, and then Rashford played big minutes up front as well too for them towards the end of last season. I think Watkins is on the decline, and as much as I like Malin, I don't know if I would feel comfortable as a Villa fan to see him lead the line week in, week out. So personally, once Villa's financial restrictions kind of lift a little bit, I would be looking for a center forward because this Villa team has a little bit of everything across the pitch. And ultimately, with 30 minutes, 20 minutes left of this game, this really became a dogfight, and it was a dogfight that Aston Villa were more than happy to live with. I loved watching Aston Villa today because at 1-1 at home, you would forgive Emery for sitting back saying, okay, we'll take a point against a good Arsenal team, we'll still be unbeaten, and we'll go from there, right? We're happy to be in a top 4 race. A point at home to Arsenal is not the worst result. You could forgive Emery for having that mindset. But no, this guy pushed and pushed and pushed and was more than happy to allow Arsenal to still have chances going the other way. He could have very easily lost this game, but he played the protagonist this day. He played the role of, I want to go and get a win. I want to win at home. For me, that's incredibly refreshing to see, especially as a United fan who has to watch Amorim 1-0 up against West Ham for 30 minutes left in the game, throw on defenders and try and protect the lead. I loved what I saw from Emery today, man. Loved it. And look, that's not to say Arsenal had nothing to do with this game. They pushed as well too. They had their chances as well. But at the end, Villa's pressure told. And it was Buendia who came on, had a few flicks that ultimately led to nothing. But in the final moments, that late scurry in the Arsenal box, he gets a chance. It's blocked, I think, from Rice or someone. And then it falls to him again. And this time, he makes no mistake. Final kick of the game at the death. Buendia gives Aston Villa the lead. He gives them all 3 points and condemns Arsenal to their second loss of the season. And now all of a sudden, things are incredibly interesting, man. This title race this season, many times, has really threatened to look like it's going to be a one-team race. Honestly, there's been times this season where I'm looking at City and I'm like, look, they got the best striker in the world, and this season maybe the best player in the world, but do they have the squad to win the league? I'm cautious to say that. Chelsea, they intrigue you in big games, but then against the small teams, they're all too predictable. Liverpool have been a calamity, so we won't even talk about them. But the one team that's actually shown pretty consistent reliability and many ways to beat you and consistency is Arsenal. To the point that I'm looking at everyone else and I'm saying, can you guys even match up to them? But this is now 2 out of 3 games in the league where they've dropped points. It's, I think, 3 consecutive away games where they've dropped points. And it's 3 consecutive away games as well, too, where they fell behind and had to come back to try and win or draw the game. All 3 times they failed to win them. But this makes things really intriguing now because Villa, I don't think anyone would have considered them a title challenger before a ball was kicked or before a ball was kicked this season. Now sit 3 points behind them. City, if they win today, go 2 points behind Arsenal. And all of a sudden, in the busy Christmas period, this title race maybe looks interesting again. Honestly, we've looked at teams and thought, okay, if you can string results together, maybe you can catch up to them. But now, we're a City win away from there being 2 points between first and second. That's interesting for me. I want to give a few shout outs and a few critiques to a few players that I noticed today. From Arsenal's point of view, well, we already talked about Eze. I think he's got to do a whole lot better there. For the amount of money they spent on him, he's got to do a lot better. From Arsenal's point of view, I think the 2 left-sided defenders were poor today. Calafiori, I think, was a mess today, honestly. I think the goal, he doesn't cover himself in glory. For Matty Cash, I don't think he does great for that situation. I think he almost is at the scene of the crime for another huge Villa chance. It was actually the Daniel Malin chance where he completely fails to clear his lines, leads to a scurry, and leads to a big chance for Malin. And just overall, I thought was really, really disappointing today. On the other hand, Hincapié. Now, Hincapié has looked really good next to Saliba. I think it was the Bayern game that he played against them. No, Mosquera played that game. The North London derby, I think he played center back next to Saliba, and I thought he looked faultless. Now, I didn't watch him midweek against Brentford, so I won't comment on that performance. I didn't watch that game. But for me, against Chelsea, and now today against Aston Villa, I'm not going to lie, I've been less than impressed when he's next to today a Timber or when he was next to a Mosquera the other day. I didn't think Hincapié was amazing today. Now, that's not to say Hincapié is not a great player, right? He's new to the team, he's new to the league, he's learning the language. This could just be a bad few days at the office. But I do think when you look at the solidity that Arsenal have, when Gabriel and Saliba are there, my goodness, you never have a reason to fear. They seem to clear all the danger when it comes to them. They're always on job to make sure Arsenal are a safe team in the back. You have no worries about them, especially as a pairing. But even when one of them is paired with somebody else, Saliba and Mosquera, Gabriel and Mosquera, Saliba and Hincapié, it doesn't matter. You feel confident with those 2 in the back. I think both of them missing has really made Arsenal look vulnerable on the odd occasion. And they have a lot of depth in numerous positions, right? Madueke can come on for Saka. Gyokeres can compete with Havertz and Marino. You know what's on the left with Eze, Trossard, Martinelli. You got depth across the pitch, right? Ben White and Timber, Skelly and Calafiori. But I do think those two center back positions, both of them being out, is huge. Because, look, football's all about partnerships, combinations, right? Relationships. There's no more important relationship on a football pitch than the two center backs. And that relationship takes a long time to build. Gabriel and Saliba have perfected theirs. They are yin and yang. They know where the other is without even having to look. To miss both of them in this period of the season is big. And I think Arteta will be preying on both of their fitness to come back as soon as possible, because I think he missed both of them today. Arsenal, for the first time in a while, in my opinion, actually looked really vulnerable anytime Aston Villa attacked them. That probably doesn't happen if Gabriel and Saliba are there. But let's give huge flowers to Aston Villa today, because I think this game was one in the middle. I do. I think Onana, Tielemans, and Kamara were flawless today. Honestly, maybe Kamara could have scored his goal. Outside of that, I don't think any of them put a foot wrong today. And it's a beautiful blend of athleticism and technique and intelligence that all three of them possess. And as a trio, I really think they are up there with the best that the Premier League has to offer, right? You can look at other parts of Villa's team and think, maybe they could improve there. When it comes to that midfield, I think those three midfielders get into most teams in the Premier League. They're that good. But the one I really want to highlight today, amongst all of the chaos and the intensity and the dueling and like we said, it felt like an old school Barclays Premier League game today. But amongst all of that, I think the player that shined the brightest today and is my man of the match is Youri Tielemans. Now, Tielemans is one of my favorite players in the league. He has been ever since he was at Leicester, right? But in and amongst this whole conversation the last few weeks about the Premier League being more intense and more physical than it ever has been, which I agree with, by the way, right? I'm not trying to say that's not true. There seems to be this idea now that the only players that can play in the Prem, especially in midfield, are 6-foot+ Goliaths and athletes and runners. That's the only way you can make it in the Premier League these days, right? We hear it all the time with Kobbie Mainoo. Why can't Kobbie Mainoo get into Man United's team? Well, he's not physical enough for them. He doesn't defend well enough for them. He doesn't run enough for them, right? Even this week, after Pedri's masterclass against Atletico Madrid, I came out and said, as good as Caicedo and Rice are and have been this season, for me, the standard for midfielders is still Pedri Gonzalez. And I had people on social media telling me, how would he fare in the out of possession point of view in the Premier League? Is he defensively good enough? Or is he physical enough to really cope in the Prem? Caicedo and Rice have shown it. He really hasn't. For me, that's crazy. That's crazy to suggest Pedri would struggle with playing in the Premier League in midfield. And I think a prime example for that is what Tielemans is doing week in, week out for the past few seasons for Aston Villa. I think there's an argument to be made he's their most important player. And in games like today, up against strong, willing runners, Declan Rice is a fantastic player. And I actually think he saved Arsenal on a few occasions today. It's not like Tielemans is going into these games and completely drowning. If anything, I feel like he's running a lot of these games. Tielemans today was so comfortable on the ball, so intelligent, very rarely lost it, played players through. I thought today he put on a fantastic midfield performance. And for me, displayed today why, despite the Premier League, yes, is getting stronger and faster and more athletic and more physical, and duels and long throws and set pieces are a huge part of the game, Tielemans proves why there will always be a place for intelligence, technically gifted midfielders that are more than happy to just run games from the technical point of view or from the mental point of view. Athleticism is huge, and oftentimes physical tools and physical traits are maybe the difference between two great technical players, right? It can definitely be something that separates the best from the next tier below. 100%, right? I'm not trying to say athleticism doesn't matter. It does. But to pretend like Youri Tielemans and midfielders of his ilk can no longer live and breathe in the Premier League ecosystem anymore, I think is ridiculous. And performances like today showcase that. So amongst all the brilliant performances that Aston Villa had today, right? I think the defense was great. I think Emi Martinez came up with some huge saves. I think, I actually thought Sancho, when he came on today, had a pretty decent cameo. I haven't watched him too much for Villa this season, but I think Villa fans have suggested long-term is he going to stay with the club. I actually thought he was pretty good today, but Tielemans today was just a cut above, man. Such a good performance. But man, I think we got a title race, honestly. I've been hesitant to say it too many times. I'm looking at the rest of the crew. I guess we got to see what City do right now, to be fair. Let me see what City do against Sunderland. If they can beat Sunderland at home, tough game, and then narrow the gap for 2 points. Hey, man, second half of the year, it might be tasty. But guys, let me know in the comment section down below, who is your man of the match? What do you think of the game? Is it time to panic as an Arsenal fan? If you're an Arsenal fan, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Like, share, subscribe. And stay tuned because I'll be doing a match review for City as well too. So keep an eye out for that. I'll see you soon. Peace.